All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's really exciting talking to you, having just seen the movie. And we were just starting to talk about the feedback you guys have been hearing so far. What's the sort of general tenor been so far?
The general tenor is people really like the film. They really love the film. You know, we did test screenings for teen audiences, and it tested really, really high. And then we had our premiere, and it was the first time we screened it for adults. And the response was sort of overwhelming. It wasn't sort of that BS, all your friends saying, "Oh, we really love the movie," and everyone in it. It generally stayed with people. And I think, you know, now we're on the 5th or 6th film festival. You know, we won Best Narrative in a couple, and Alex won an award for Best Actor. So he's an award-winning actor. And people really, really respond to it. They respond to just having fun, the relationships, and being able to have a story that people can sort of discuss after that's a socially relevant story.
Yeah, yeah. Have you been particularly surprised by any feedback you've heard?
I mean, I was surprised by the award. At least for mine, I'm the world's worst critic of myself, so I really wasn't expecting that type of response. But I'm very happy that Butter has gotten the feedback we have from everybody that has seen it, and all the festivals and friends and family have said, you know, very positive, very honest feedback. So I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, it is very honest. I think that it's nice to, you know, this movie was sort of experimental in a lot of ways. Some of the characters were, you know, when I first spoke to Mira had a certain idea on this character. And when we were on the set, she came up with some really cool character traits and kooky ideas. And it was like, let's just do this. So, you know, with Brian being blind in one eye, sort of all the things that we did, you know, we didn't have a studio telling us what we could do and couldn't do. So we just kind of did it. And so, not that it was an experimental film in any way, but it did walk sort of, is this a comedy? Is this a drama? And the film kind of found its way through all the collaborations that we had. So getting all the kudos and people really enjoying the movie and enjoying the story, that was really a nice payoff.
Yeah. I have more questions about the sort of genesis and pre-production stages, but off of what you just said, I'd like to sort of jump to the shooting phase and ask Mira and Alex. I'd like to hear one thing that each of you learned from the other on set.
Do you want to go first, Mira?
No.
She wants time to think. She learned so much.
Okay.
I know what I learned from Mira. I know I'm a huge dork, because I think the very first thing I said to her was how the Post-it business was, and she was like in the middle of trying to get her makeup done. She was like focused on the conversation with that, but she kind of laughed to herself a little bit. But she was very, I don't know if she feels this way about herself. I think she's very, very grounded. She felt very much like a mom on set this with me, because this is the first major movie I've done. This is the biggest thing of my career thus far. And being away from my family when we shot this, like during the holiday season, and I was away from them, she and Brian really kind of helped keep me grounded and keep me in the moment, not so much worry about some of the behind the scenes, whether just focus on being happy, being here in the moment, and just enjoy the journey while you're here.
Yeah. Mira?
I think, you know, I don't know that I don't know that there's like an overall like single thing that I would say that I learned from Alex, but I can say that working with Alex, I just really appreciated the fact that although he was probably the sort of this was, how many films had you made before this, Alex?
2 or 3. Like I was like little bits and piece parts. And this was the biggest
So this is like
ever.
a huge, big task, put before you, the responsibility of carrying this film. And I was so impressed with Alex, so impressed with his vulnerability and humor and cool. Like Alex, like, I don't know where, like, I certainly at his age, stepping into a film where I was the titular character, but who I had to also do some pretty upsetter scene, like to me is so horrific to watch, or, just the concept of someone who wants to take his own life because he's being, just sort of bullied and disappointed and misunderstood and used. He really, I was just so impressed with his balancing act of how he walked in there and he did all of that and more. Like he held the film, he was the film, and was so authentic. And I don't know, like you were a very together person and a really excellent performer. And I really applaud you because, at your age too, and the small number of things you had under your belt, like you just soared. And I was just kind of always impressed with him when I was working with him. I was like, wow, he's just such a natural. He's able to do this. Like, I think that was so impression making on me. So maybe that's what I learned. It's just like, even yourself, because he sure had it going on, and he didn't come in with all the terrible nerves. When I was a young actor, I was so nervous. I was almost paralyzingly nervous. I was afraid to talk to anyone on the set for fear that they would not want to hear what I had to say, like even in friendship. I just was trying to be like at attention, waiting for my orders, and I just felt like his ease and naturalness and sort of, taking his proper place, and was very, very impressive. And it's what makes this film work. So I really congratulate you, Alex.
Well said, Mira.
Yeah.
Yeah, very well said. Thank you. That's very touching. I appreciate everything you said. Right back at you. It's like, wow.
Thank you.
And it sounds like this project kind of brought you full circle and got you sort of revisiting some of your earliest work. Is that fair to say?
Me?
You, sorry, Mira, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Well, I mean, I guess you mean in terms of what I was thinking about or how I was playing it?
What you were just describing about how, Alex's experience on set was sort of reminding you, and you sound like you were comparing and contrasting your early days in the business.
Yes, it's my sort of like, almost anxiety, just a ton of anxiety always, and fear of thinking I wasn't good enough, and having to get past that to function. Like, auditions were so hard for me because I was so afraid of not doing well at them, and them not liking my work, and having to just try and vault myself past that nervousness to where I could just be free and play. And I feel like Alex just naturally is beyond that, which is fantastic. And I mean, I think in my, I think still nobody likes to audition, but I feel like I'm in a different place now, in terms of being grounded in myself and having, 50 some odd projects under my belt. Like, I do have more of an air of, like, I guess, relaxedness when I'm, walking onto a set, but I'm still kind of, I just want it to be good. I always want it to be good, but I think enjoying the ride is really important. And I think enjoying your life at every stage of it, and not waiting till like you're older to be like, okay, I'm confident. I can actually have fun while I'm working. Like, you're already there. So that's amazing.
Wow. How does that sound, Alex? Is that ringing true? Did you feel any of those
Well,
anxieties in this project?
oh, 100%. I was nervous as hell the entire damn time. I'm
Really?
glad I was able to hide it from Mira. Like, holy hell. But yeah, I was nervous. I thought I was gonna screw up the saxophone. I thought I was gonna like just look like total a geek, a nerd, dork, whatever the hell you want to say. I was worried how it would look in wardrobe, how my hair would look. I was nervous about every little detail. And I think once Paul finally said, "All right, action," and we had done all the homework, pre-production and everything like that, we fully just kind of melted into that world of butter. And I apologize for that pun. But yeah, I just kind of melted into butter in a sense, and it just kind of worked out in the end. And clearly, people have responded pretty well to it, so I'm very happy that I've lost some of the nerves. I still have it significantly when I go in on auditions, when I do get auditions. But it is what it is. I've just enjoyed the journey in making the movie itself. I want to do it again. I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah. I've seen this on the internet elsewhere, but I think it deserves to be told here. Alex, will you talk about the step in your audition process where you had to improvise a saxophone, or not actually a saxophone, but something else?
Tanis, our casting director, basically the breakdown said, "Hey, by the way, you're gonna do a mock saxophone improvisation." I don't play an instrument. I've never learned how to play an instrument, so I didn't know what I was going to do. But I have a very strong improv background. It's like, all right, I'm just going to wing it. I saw people coming in with like the actual like legitimate saxophones in their cases. But Tanis was like, "Oh, you don't have one? Okay, well here's a soup ladle. And I'm gonna play this Charlie Parker song, and you're gonna play to this song." And after I left, and people were like, "That was the most complicated Charlie Parker song in the world. They want us to improvise to it." And I didn't realize, but I was just improvising on a soup ladle, apparently well enough to get Paul's attention. And then it's all history from there, I guess.
Paul, what did you see? You get the audition tapes. Here's Alex with a soup ladle. What was going through your mind? Was that the first time you saw?
I wanted him to make some soup for me, and clearly he would know how to ladle it. Alex just has a great quality to him, and one of the things about committing to the part of butter is that I also had to find someone that was really going to be 100% committed, and that meant taking saxophone lessons and preparing, and being fitted for a fat suit, a prosthetic suit, and so Alex was just a natural. And I just felt that there was just something to him. We ended up bringing him in a few more times and putting him on tape a few more times. I know Alex and I spent some time Zooming and talking about this character. And ultimately he really earned the role, and if acting doesn't work out for him, he can always go work in a soup kitchen.
There we go. Got a backup plan.
Good. There are so many issues that are dramatized in this movie. It's hard to even know which one to start in on, but so many really consequential things, especially to younger viewers. This is a really powerful movie that could really have a profound impact on kids who are struggling with similar things. And one of the things that struck me is the number of times people say to Butters slash Marshall. Spoilers if you're watching this before the movie for some reason. There's at least the three people, Mira and the professor and the doctor, all say, "You can talk to me," and he doesn't. He doesn't actually talk to any of them until after New Year's Eve, and that, you know, sort of horrific crescendo in the movie. So I'm curious about how you sort of developed that in the script, and how you think kids with similar struggles might receive that, seeing how Butter does not take them up on that till the end of the movie.
It's hard, you know, it's there's a stigma for
Mhm.
people to come forward and have a conversation with a friend or with a parent that there's something wrong. And I think we need to take that stigma off of mental health. The way I try and explain it is, you know, if you have a heart condition, you go see a heart doctor, you know, and if you have a liver condition, you know, you might take some pills. The brain is just another organ, you know, and if you have issues with it, you should go see the right doctor, and you should, you know, figure out, you know, how are you going to fix it. But there is a stigma. You know, we are in partnership with the Jed Foundation that deals with mental illness, and just a great nonprofit. They vetted us, meaning they read the script and they gave us some direction to make sure that we were responsible with the subject matters, and they vetted Dear Evan Hansen, but they have an offshoot called seizetheawkward.org.
Oh yeah.
So if anyone has the time to go to seizetheawkward.org, what that nonprofit is that it deals using humor like Butter does. There are these funny little segments about teenagers that are not able to have the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's sort of seizing those quiet moments, you know, between friends and asking them, are you depressed, you know, and what's going on? And have you thought about taking your life? You know, it's easy awkward. You have two teenagers sitting on a couch and neither one of them could talk. And then this guy pops out of the cushions and says, is this you and your friend? You know, it's like, if you're feeling down, have that conversation. So, you know, that's what it is. It's, you know, people just don't want to do it. They feel that there's something wrong, and you know, they, you know, it leads, you know, one thing leads to another sometimes. You know, and I think I think it's mostly regretful. A lot of people that attempt suicide that do not end up surviving, a great fair number of them regret even trying to take their own lives.
Yeah. Mira playing a mother character who's trying so hard to connect with her son, but also you see some flaws, some habits, you know, with the way she feeds him and babies him and stuff like that. And there's a great line toward the end about a promise to do better. This is when she serves up the, like, I don't know, gluten-free pancakes or whatever, the healthy pancakes. Did you do any research into families with similar challenges? Was it more of a sort of intuitive process for you?
Well, I mean, a good portion of my relatives have issues with food and eating and overeating, and food is love, food almost pushed upon you. Like there was, you know, I grew up with food being this kind of like a love-hate thing with food. Like food was the way that everybody expressed love to each other. But sometimes that was super unhealthy when someone had a health issue, and then it was still being, like, you know, just kind of slammed through. And I even find in my adult life, like, if a member of my family doesn't like something I prepared for them, I get all hurt rather than just being like, oh, okay, they just don't want to eat that. That's fine. Like, everybody has different taste, or they're full, or they're just not in the mood. But like, food was so darn personal in my household as a child, especially with my extended family, my grandparents, especially from Italy, that it was like this kind of currency of love. And it was very personal, and you felt like you could not refuse it. Like I remember when I went to China, and this is sort of not an odd little diversion, but like I lived in China during my junior summer into senior fall. I took a semester off in college, and I had these Chinese friends, and they would have me over to their homes, and they would make these giant feasts for me. And so out of politeness, I would always try and finish everything they served me, even if I was kind of put off by it, even if it was like an odd exotic dish like sea cucumber or like a whole chicken foot or something. And then, and so I would eat everything, and then they would load it back onto my plate, and I would just eat it again, because I literally didn't feel like I had the right to say no, like that I had the personhood to be like, I'm fine, thanks. And later I was told, oh, in Chinese culture, you have to leave something on your plate, or else you're indicating that you want more food. But as a child, it was like, you have to be a member of the Clean Plate Club. And so there was always a critique of the food. Like my dad would always critique my mom's food. Like, Lorraine, where did you get these tomatoes? King's. Oh, that's good. Never get them at the Grand Union. How long did you brown the garlic? What kind of olive oil is this? Is this extra virgin? No, not the extra virgin. That's only for salads. This has got to be the. And there was always like the food was this larger than food thing. And so for me, I think for her to be like, my mode of love to you is food, even though she's not seeing that could be an unhealthy push on him, it's like she wants him to love her, so she makes him these like extravagantly, almost like cute pieces of food, like the bread rolls that look like little pigs, like in Thanksgiving thing, but that's like her conduit to him. She doesn't really know how to talk to him, so she'll feed him like you have to feed a baby or an animal that needs you to provide its sustenance, and she's kind of infantilized him to a certain extent. And it's really not healthy for either of them, but she's kind of stuck in this rut. But it's not something I was unfamiliar with personally. So that's, but I did see her as a person who was kind of well-meaning, but in a pattern that wasn't very healthy for either of them. And perhaps a little bit like unseen by her own husband a little. So like her primary relationship is just with her son, and this is her special bond with them, is their, the special treats she makes him.
Yeah. That, the husband, obviously that there's a reconciliation toward the end of the movie. Again, really hoping everyone's already seen it before they watch this talk back. But there's a real, the movie definitely leans into redemption, I think. I would say there are no like villains in the movie. Even the really mean kid, you can see his anguish when they're watching the
Right.
binge,
Yep.
And I wondered if that was ever a challenge with the storytelling. There was a moment, he's in the hospital, and he gets an email from the two cool kids whose names escape me.
Yeah, Trent and Parker.
Yeah. And they apologize, and they sort of own up to what they did. But I was actually watching that moment, and I kind of expected Marshall to like write, hey, thanks for getting back to me. Go fuck yourselves, And I thought it was like a pretty narrow divergence between the forgiveness that he gives them and that which I thought they were perfectly entitled to. Do you think that's a sort of valid reading of that scene?
I think it's a matter of interpretation, and I think it's something that I wanted people to discuss. I went through several versions of that with Trent and Parker, and one is they got expelled from school, and I just really wanted it, and I wanted that message, which actually wasn't in the script, and I put that letter in at the end. He was checking his email, and he found something else, and I took that out and put in the Trent and Parker letter. because I wanted it to be a conversation. Um, you know, and I also think that Trent Parker didn't really think that he was going to do it. They just wanted to make money betting on him, you know, and then they befriended him to try and get the inside track so they could win some money. And then after they befriended him, they really kind of fell in love with him. So, you know, it's definitely that there are some things that I left open-ended, and that's one of them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I also wanted to talk about the online dynamics in this movie, which is a lot of it. You know, the Anna Marshall relationship, the sort of Cyrano story, I guess you could say, when they're talking online.
Yeah,
and
it's a catfish story too.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
He's catfishing her.
Okay, well, I guess this is what I want to ask about, because Anna in the hospital scene says, "You're no better." And
Yeah.
they start talking about these different identities that they've assumed or assumptions they've made
Yeah.
in that context.
Yeah.
But I mean, Alex, do you see a big difference between this JP character, who doesn't actually exist, and the Marshall Butter guy who has invented him? Do you think those are wildly different identities?
I do. I tend to believe that they are pretty wildly different identities. Just because Marshall's he's very self-conscious about everything. And JP seems to be very outgoing. He's on the soccer team. He's at this private school. He's the captain of the soccer team too. So he's got the leadership quality. And Marshall's very kind of reserved, very quiet. He's used to being in the back of the cafeteria, the back of the classrooms, just being kind of in his own little bubble, which is where he's happiest. And he just kind of, I don't really want to say worm, but he kind of wormed Anna into his bubble through the internet just by becoming this JP persona. And he straight up catfished her. There's really no way to put it any other. I can't think of any other way to really put it. He was just catfishing her, but he wasn't trying to be malicious about it. I think he felt that he was trying to make a legitimate connection.
Yeah.
He just didn't believe that Marshall could get Anna, but JP could.
Right.
And that was probably his train of thought.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, and you're right. He definitely did the catfisher, and Butter is not who JP is. But there are times when Anna reached out to him for emotional support, and that's where elements of Butter, you know, really came through. Is that he really knew how to tend to her and listen to her, and that definitely is an element of Butter's character.
Yeah. I mean, just to push back on what you're saying a little bit, Alex, I think all the sort of soccer captains, private school stuff kind of goes by pretty quick. And what you're witnessing is his charm, his genuine charm, sense of humor and empathy, which is why I was kind of surprised when that scene came along in the hospital and made me think, wait, are they totally different people? You know, he seemed like a very similar guy to me, this JP character. So I suppose that's why I said Cyrano instead of catfish. Mm-hmm. Also, I'm just really pretentious, but more the first thing.
I mean, I see it as JP was the door, but Marshall was the one that opened the door and kind of Marshall put in the work, put in the effort. JP just managed to make it, give that good look, give it that good charm. All it really was just the packaging. Marshall was this brand, JP was this brand, but they're the exact same friggin' thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I think the point that Anna is trying to make in that scene is that she doesn't know who JP is, and so she doesn't really know who he is. And the bottom line is that he did to her what everybody does to him, is that he knew what she looked like, and he had fallen in love with her at school because she was the prettiest girl at school, and he just had a thing for her. So he was judging her based on looks, and people judged Butter based on looks.
Mhm.
And that's what she points out in that hospital scene. And she says, you're no better than they are because you judged me based on my looks, not what's inside me. So that's
Yeah.
kind of what you walk away with after that
Mhm.
scene.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's very well said, both of you. I want to make sure we're keeping track of time. It's about 6:15 Western anyway. Is everyone okay for a couple more questions?
I am.
Okay, for a couple more, we're good.
Yeah, really, a couple more should do it. And I really don't want to leave out another piece of this, which is Anna herself, and that you have two very different versions of youth struggle, you know, and Anna's is being slut shamed. And I don't think there's a kid alive who will see this movie and not have touched that in one way or another. And it's also hard not to think of the recent upheavals in show business when you're watching a story like that. And I'm wary of, like, you know, kind of conflating a whole bunch of issues in one thing. But Mira, considering you've been so vocal over the last few years with Me Too, do you see any resonance in this movie with things you've been fighting for?
Well, I mean, definitely the sort of objectification of the young woman, the slut shaming of the young woman, the you know, the guys who just see her as like a kind of a trophy to be attained rather than as a human being. I mean, I don't think that Butter is as bad as the other guys, because, you know, or you know, when she says you're as bad as they are, I don't think that's really true, because I think he's right that she wouldn't have given him the time of day in a romantic courtship the way that she does online with this fantasy person that she doesn't even know, you know, just given stereotypes, right? So she's just going to write off, and maybe they could have become really good friends, and then maybe she could have fallen in love with him, but it would have been that route first. But I do think, look, I think that the Me Too movement and violence towards women and sexual violence towards everyone comes out of a larger inhumanity that plagues our age and our species. And you see it manifested in so many ways, in racism and gender-based violence and cruelty to animals. And, you know, that there's something a little bit broken with humanity at current time, and perhaps there always has been. And the only real answer is empathy and teaching people very young to never write the other off as less than, as not human, as not worthy of your kindness or your consideration or your good treatment. And, you know, the way that people treat Butter, because he's a different size than they are, because he looks different, the way that they are so horrendously bullying of him is just the same way that a man who hates women is able to, you know, beat her or rape her, or the way Hitler was able to gas millions of Jews. Like, there's a brokenness in, we have an ability to turn off our empathy. we have an ability to otherize people's, you know, animals, and just be like, oh, they don't count as much as I count. And when you take that to the nth degree, their happiness, their well-being, their safety doesn't really matter to you, and you can do to them as though they were an object or something so much less than your humanity that you can get away with it. And, you know, I said to my kids the other day, oh, because one of my kids just started middle school, and I was like, middle school girls are like the cruelest people in the world. Like if they, you know, one said something that made my son very hurt, and I was like, no, if middle school girls ran the world, no one would be left standing. Like, it's a vicious time. But I don't know, I just see the message of this story, and us getting behind this leading man who is so unconventional. This is so different from like who we see leading movies, you know, for most of movie history. Like, it's revolutionary in that way, because we all become him as we watch it. Mm-hmm. And stop any otherization based on, you know, some exterior factor that doesn't matter at all. What matters is here and here, right? And so I think it's all interconnected, and I think it's all about that, generating that empathy and that kindness and putting yourself in the other's shoes. And once you're really in those other shoes, then you can't continue turning a blind eye to the injustices that you or others like you are visiting on that other group with that other person. So that's how I see it connecting.
Well said. Very well said.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Mira. That's great.
Well, let's wrap it up. If you could each just say a few words, if you want viewers to take one thing from this movie. Mira, you might have just answered this question, so let me know. But what's the one takeaway?
Alex?
The one takeaway from this movie, don't be a dick. It's pretty simple. Just be kind. Be better than you think you should be. It's better to be the kind person than the dick. Honestly, it really is. Especially in high school.
Yeah, I think that the one word that I have is kindness and acceptance and being non-judgmental. And one of the reasons why I was attracted to this book and the character of Butter was because he was so different. And you know, people would fall in love with him. And so maybe when they're out in public and they see someone, you know, that might be not, you know, socially acceptable, whether it's a weight issue or whether it's you don't have any hair or whether it's, you know, whatever physical attribute a person might have. And that is, we're just all people inside, and we should just be, we should be accepting. And judgment and being judgmental, it's a muscle. You know, when I was younger, I was very judgmental, and it's a muscle. And if you catch yourself on it, and if you really get down to talking to people and learning who they are, as you get wiser, you're judgmental, and being judgmental really does go away. And if we could teach the children kindness, you know, they don't even have to start off with being so judgmental. And I think a lot of that starts in the home. But ultimately, it's being accepted, not judgmental, and kindness. It's that one word, kindness.
Thank you. Well, guys, that's all the questions I had. Does anyone else want to sort of use this moment to say anything else about the movie?
I just want to thank everyone. You know, from Mira and Alex and the crew and the people who we got, Panavision, the free cameras, and there, you know, we just wouldn't have been able to make this movie unless everybody was like-minded. And like-minded people read the script and wanted to be a part of that story, you know, because it was a story that meant something, and no one made any money off of this. It was a passion project, and it got made because of like-minded people. And I just love that. And the shooting experience, you know, I've made 23 movies. It was the best experience I've had because people really just wanted to be there, and they just loved the story. And they loved the social message that it had and the importance that it had, you know, of teen suicide prevention and anti-bullying, and hopefully having some kind of a social impact, you know, while being entertained at the same time.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree. We had just as much talent behind the scenes as we had in front of the camera. It was just an astronomical amount of talent we had just being on that set. It was just fun to be there.
Yeah. And I also want to thank, you know, the Portland Film Festival. Mira, do you have anything to add?
No, I'm just excited for more and more people to see it, and
Great.
I'm really grateful for the platform that Portland has given us, and I know that there are more festivals to come, and hopefully there'll be some kind of really great release for it as this momentum builds for it, because I think it, you know, in this time, it's really a hard time. COVID is hard, and this, you know, the strife, the country is sort of in an unprecedentedly, you know, except for the Civil War, divided state. And I feel like this is a movie that brings people together and takes sickness and turns it into wellness, and like takes ugliness and turns it into beauty, takes discord and turns it into accord. Like this is a good movie for this time, you know? So I really hope that it finds a great home and distribution, and people welcome it into their living rooms, because I think this is the kind of content that, you know, people are down for right now. I think this is good for right now.
Thank you, Mira. Thank you so much. And yeah, thank you, Portland.
And thank you guys for speaking with us. It was a pleasure having this conversation and seeing the movie, and look forward to seeing it out there in the world.
Thanks, James. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Portland. Thank you, Mira. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you,
everybody who has seen this. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye.